Hello everybody. Nice that I'm not alone here after the lunch because everybody makes a little nap or something like that. And I try to to keep you awake during the next 45 minutes. Okay, let's start. My issue, PDF UA Basics, it's for beginners. I hope you do not know too much about PDF UA yet. Or you will hear something new which you can use in your daily work. And I've chosen the topic Born to be Wild. Wild means everybody uses his own requirements when he creates accessible PDFs. And this time is over, so we do not have any more wild times. We have, I hope so, accessible times, and the goal will be to create born accessible documents. And a short overview. First, a little introduction. I hope I can entertain you a little bit, keep you awake and so. Welcome to the channel. A short explanation, what is PDF UA, some good news, what has changed during the last 2 years. Then I want to explain logical document structure. Point 5, the key requirements. Point 6, how to check PDF for PDF UA and how to create them. And then I show you some conclusion for different target groups. And then we are near the end. And point 9, questions. You are not allowed to, you're not only allowed to ask questions at the end. I want to keep it interactive, like in the session before about PDF 2.0, the great session with François Fernandez. So if you have a question, just ask, no problem. Okay, welcome to the channel. Here a little impression from the jungle. And in the jungle, the biggest rules the world. The giraffe normally reaches the best fruits, or the strongest will get the best food. So I guess we are neither the biggest nor the strongest. So what's our job? I have here some rules from Serengeti National Park, clear rules how to survive for all the others, for us. And I want to mention one special rule here. Off-road is strictly prohibited. So please keep on the road. And this is the best rule for creating accessible PDFs. Off-road is strictly prohibited. So maybe I can explain during the next minutes what is meant by off-road. On the road, this means use PDF UA. These rules for our surviving are PDF UA. What is PDF UA? This standard is born, for me, a star is born, and now he finds his feet. He's 2 years old, so a little baby, but now he finds his feet. His full name, ISO so-and-so, you can read it there, so I always change the numbers, but I think this is correctly written here. And PDF UA is about the inner workings of the PDF format. How to use PDF features to create accessible PDF. And for the most part, PDF UA simply serves to require many elements that are optional in the PDF specification. And the whole ISO standard, the whole book, it's not really a book, only 30 pages. It's not told as a great story, full of suspense. The great story will be the implementation by you. And it's not a how-to guide to help you to create accessible PDF. because it's written in a very technical terminology, and I want to explain some key requirements from the PDF UA standard. You can get a very good introduction into the history, background, and programs and more of PDF UA in this brochure. You can get it as a print version or in 2 digital versions here, and I will recommend it very to you. And PDF UA applies surely to documents. So every document creator has to fulfill PDF UA, but it also applies to authoring tools like Word, like InDesign, or every authoring tool for the creation of accessible PDF, and it applies to reader and viewer, Adobe Reader or Special Reader, or even it applies to assistive technology like a screen reader. Here is a picture from Jaws, or the best screen reader for PDF UA files is NVDA, or also other viewers, specialized viewers for special target groups, for example the VIP PDF reader for low vision users. And altogether, the standard enables best user experience, especially for users with disabilities, sure, but also for all users who need adaptable content, reflow in the context of mobile, web, or speech output with rich semantics will become more mainstream, I guess. It's my opinion. So also for these target groups, the PDF UA standard will be very helpful. Now some good news. I have here some quotes, and this is a quote from Jan-Erik Helbusch. He's also in the room. And this year at the web conference in Erlangen, he said, more and more PDF feels like HTML. It's the best compliment for all of us, because normally the whole disabilities community always says, oh, PDF cannot be accessible, and so on, and fights against the PDF format. And so this is a very important quote: more and more PDF feels like HTML. So there's no restriction anymore. And another good news, PDF UA gets a kind of famous, or at least accepted, because it is now also a DIN standard in Germany. And the new full name is not only ISO standard, so and so, it's a DIN ISO standard. So it's a good message that it's accepted, and it's not only theory anymore. It's really possible to create accessible PDF compliant to PDF UA with professional tools. And a little side note, honestly, even if it's not all is possible, but perfect, but it's possible. So the next point is PDF UA will grow up. The little boy, 2 years, will become bigger, and soon, in brackets, because I don't know exactly if he will be 6 years or 8 years or 4 years old, then this will happen. And in PDF UA 2, there will be a very nice feature, the namespace concept. This will enable the inclusion of tag sets of other markup languages like MathML, EPUB, DAISY, and so on. So it's the classical PDF strategy: embrace your enemies, all in one box. So I'm looking forward to it. A short introduction: understanding logical document structure. And I start with the presentation layer. I say presentation layer to it because it's a normal PDF, a very simple PDF. independent of a source format. It could be a Word or InDesign or something like that. In this example, I explain it for Word. And we have a heading 1, we have a list with 3 list items, we have a link, and we have an image with a caption. And how to create structure. It's the task of the authors, but the software has to support it. And in Word it is very easy because you have to add invisible labels for all relevant elements. And you have to determine the logical order of all relevant elements. And let's have a look how you can do it in Word. You use styles, and it's the information of the outline level. The outline level determines the heading level. And for a list, you can use, for example, the style list bullet. It's an inbuilt style in Word itself. And you can, if you use built-in styles, it's always the best way to create accessible PDFs. In order to create an accessible link, it is sufficient to make the link clickable. And an image has to be anchored, and you have to deliver alt text, alternative text. And if you combine it with a caption, the caption should be written with a style caption. And all these invisible labels, they are created to the PDF text. And this in this layer I call the structure layer, and on the structure layer the labels will become tags. From the outline level, the heading 1 tag. From the style list bullet, there will be created a whole tag tree, small tag tree, because the list is leveled element. So you get some tags out of it. The clickable link will be become a link tag, and the anchored image will become to a figure tag with the alternate text as an attribute, and the style caption will become a caption tag. It looks very nice, but this is not possible with Word itself. You need a conversion tool which supports the export from all the styles to the according tags. And the structure layer and the presentation layer, they both will be in the PDF. You only see the presentation layer, but below the presentation layer there will be the structure layer. And born accessible documents will have a proper structure layer. The structure layer makes your content adaptable. One example, I have here an article about the Matterhorn protocol as an example, and this is the presentation layer. And you do not see the structure layer, but if there is a structure layer, you can adapt your content. Here we used the VIP PDF reader, so you can use high contrast mode, you can change the font, you can change background color, font color, and so on. And here in this case, we changed the view, but the window is too large, so you can make it smaller, and every line will break accordingly. You call this a reflow view, and this is possible because there is a structure layer. So this is a good example. Why do we need a structure layer? We need it for adaptable content. We need it for alternate views, so-called. For example, a reflow view. And even more, you can change background color, font color, and even the font. And this is another example of the same document where is used a font called dyslexia. It's for people with learning and reading disabilities. And it's still the same document, but the presentation is completely different from the original presentation layer. So let's come to the key requirements. We have several levels of requirements. The basic level are the technical requirements. So you have to pay attention to that all characters in your document are mapped to Unicode. All the fonts have to be embedded, and you have to set the document language. And by the way, your document has to be a valid ISO 32000 document, because this is the fundamental requirement for even for accessible PDFs. Then we have some requirements on the level design and layout. One example, sufficient contrast, and very important, information may not only conveyed by using visual means alone. So don't use only color for marking informations or something like that. And then the most important part of PDF UA and of an accessible document is the logical document structure and the semantics, and all relevant elements are tagged and in the correct logical order. These are the most important tags: headings, paragraphs, figures, lists, tables, and links. And at the end, final level, we have some aspects, in context with usability, the bookmarks, set the metadata, and attach the PDF UA identifier so that software knows how to render this PDF UA compliant file. I love to use images that you never forget anymore in order to emphasize my key items, my key issues. So I choose this one. These bones of African animals, and I like the most here the giraffe. I didn't know that the things I don't know in English, these tiles here on the head are really bones. I thought they would be soft or something like that, but these are really bones. And this picture should say logical document structure is the most important part of an accessible document. It's the backbone of an accessible PDF. And what is meant by logical document structure? We use 5 fundamentals in order to explain what is meant by this. And the first fundamental is complete. Every element in your document is marked either as a tag or an artifact. Tagging alone is not enough. The second fundamental: every relevant element has a clear position in the logical order. The third, the tags should be adequate. This means you use the tag that expresses best the role in the perspective of semantics. And the fourth fundamental, congruent, keep together but should not be separated. And the way round, I show an example directly. And clear, use only PDF standard tags or map customized tags to PDF standard tags. These are the 5 fundamentals of logical document structure. And if you want to check these fundamentals, the logical document structure, you can do this, or at least some requirements of a logical document structure. You can do this by a machine check. For fundamental complete, you can check it by machine. But if the logical order is correct, you cannot check by a machine. You need a human check. And also for the fundamental adequate, you need a human check. And concurrent also, clear can be checked by a machine. So we see you can use machine checking in order to evaluate accessible PDFs, but you also need human checks. An example for the fourth fundamental concurrent, because we have here a typical mistake from an average Word author, let me say so. Wrong use of line breaks. The first example, normally I ask, do you see the mistake? Where is the mistake? But okay. The first example is off-road. The second example is on-road. Because concurrent means keep together what should be together in the logical document structure. The second example here is we have one element, one heading of level 2 in this case, and the first example is off-road because in the PDF we will get 2 headings because of a hard line break in the first line. Okay. I have here some details to the requirements concerning the headings. Use them according to the information hierarchy in your document. Do not skip heading levels. They are the most important structure elements. Some requirements according to images and graphics. Alternate text is very clear, but a big mistake are missing bounding boxes. And this is one of the biggest mistakes if you use Microsoft Word and create an accessible PDF out from Word with a conversion on board. You will get bounding box errors because all your images will not have bounding boxes. It's the same with the placement attribute, because figure is by default an inline element, but when you use figure as a block element, we are missing, the placement attribute is missing. Okay, lists. The best way would be if your software, your conversion tool, will be able to create lists correctly. If the author has marked them as a real list, and a normal list will have labels and list body, the text separated. And there are also some list attributes. But this is not a clear point. You can also use lists without a list attribute. There's a setting, a default setting that would be enough. And for tables, here is an example from Access PDF Quick Fix. It's a correction and evaluation and remediation tool. And for tables, it is very important to mark the table headers, independent of if they are in the if there are headers for the columns or for the rows. And here you can check them by clicking the tag or by clicking an error in the report, and you also can correct them here. Scope column, you can change it to scope row if it's necessary. So these are some short details. There are some special elements also, like links, footnotes, endnotes, side notes, formulas, forms, and they all have special requirements, and the devil is in the details. Yeah. So if you are convinced, we already can create accessible PDFs compliant with PDF UA, check them and have a close look to all the details. The details are worked out in a protocol. It's called Matterhorn protocol. It's first I want to look at the location of a PDF UA standard in the perspective of two other standards. And if we have a look at the WCAG 2, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, we see the WCAG 2 is not applicable complete to PDF. There are some requirements, some guidelines that are not applicable to PDF, and therefore you need a special standard, and PDF UA fills this gap. In another perspective, there are several levels of quality levels, let me say so. The fundamental is PDF itself, then PDF UA, and on top there are a lot of requirements. They belong to PDF UA and to WCAG 2, but there are some requirements that are not part of PDF UA, that they are part of WCAG 2. And on top, there will be usability for people with disabilities. And we have a checking tool, the PDF Accessibility Checker 2. This will be able to check these two levels. The PDF Accessibility Checker 2 is an implementation of a Matterhorn protocol. And the Matterhorn protocol is the PDF UA conformance testing model. There are 31 checkpoints in it, and they have over 100 failure conditions. Let's have a look to an example. Here, checkpoint 1, real content tagged, and you see to this checkpoint there are some checks, some human checks, some machine checks, and let's have a look at the example. Tagged content is present inside content marked as artifact. This is a typical machine check because it's a syntax check. Yeah, it's a syntax error. In opposite, the first failure condition, artifact is tagged as real content. Artifact is a decorative element, a non-relevant element, pure decoration. And this decorative element is tagged as real content. A machine cannot judge this, evaluate this. So you need a human check for this failure condition. How to check? There is a freeware called PDF Accessibility Checker. It includes a PDF UA check, all machine checkable checkpoints from the Matterhorn protocol. And so here, machine check. It's a freeware. It has some additional features like a summary report and a detailed report, and additional views. For example, a simplified structure view. Expert view, you also have the possibility to analyze the logical document structure in combination with the page view. You can evaluate all attributes of a PDF text. You can evaluate the role mapping, and you have a view statistics. So you have a quick view if you have a rich a PDF document with rich semantics or not. This is an example of a detailed report. You get single error messages, and if you click one, the location in the document will be shown where the error is located. And this is part of a machine check, of a PDF UA check. But you also need the human check. And why do we need a human check? Because the logical document structure, we saw it some slides before, 3 of the fundamentals have to be evaluated by a human check. So X-ray a PDF in order to evaluate the logical document structure. So we are here at the bones. And how can you evaluate the bones of your document? There are different tools for that. The PEG-2 simplified structure view is one example. And you see the bones like the headings here in red color, or you can evaluate the table structure, even with the header and the data cells. And there are also other tools like the PDF Go HTML tool. It also has a simplified structure view, and it also supports the human check. And here you see also in different colors the table headers and the data cells. So it's very important to combine the machine check with a human check. It's not sufficient to evaluate an accessible PDF only by a machine check. This is the expert view. If you want to go deeper into the topic, so you have here the complete tag tree, and if you click one tag, the appropriate location in the document will be highlighted. It's also for the human check. A short overview. Which tools are available for machine check? PDF UA, PEG-2 PDF accessibility checker is the only tool at the moment. And you have several tools for the human check, or combine it with a user check with assistive technologies. That would be the best practice. So it sounds a little bit time consuming, all the checking and that stuff. So is there a shorter way to Matterhorn? I hope so, and we do so because we have a lot of client projects, and we don't want to work too much, so we are on the search to shorter ways to Matterhorn, and let's have a look how it will be possible. And we want to create accessible PDFs, PDF UA files efficiently. And we mean by that not only for freaks. Here a freak wrote, it kind of scares me how much I enjoy creating accessible PDF documents. Okay, nice for her, but it should not be, not every document author is a freak. So everyone should be able to handle the authoring software and to create accessible PDFs. Efficiently means no repair. We don't want to repair the PDF. No remediation. No tedious post-processing, because it makes our trousers dirty. And efficient means faster and easier. The accessibility authoring should be less time-consuming, and we can support that by special task panes or special features, internal checker, and so on. So have a look if it's also possible to create born accessible documents. And I have two examples. First, the Word to PDF workflow. Can Word to PDF, is that workflow able to create born accessible files? And for me, a Word file is like a zebra. Good-natured, black and white, but sometimes it can be very disturbing. And let's have a look to the workflow and the tools, and we see the best way would be if we would have a conversion, only a conversion that would be able to use all the structure information from Word to use the tagged PDF, and so that we can spare time in the step 3 check and remediate. And at the moment there are no, the conclusion is we tested all these tools, and the conclusion is with mainstream products it's not possible. For our client project, we for a health insurance we had to establish a workflow, and we used a beta version of a Word add-in, and with this beta version it was possible to create PDF UA files out of Word with very less remediation, and the lessons learned are especially the first step in the process is time consuming. Analyzing the document types and create templates that are prepared for accessibility. Templates that are prepared for accessibility. That's the main task. And if you have such templates, it is possible to establish a lean workflow. The other example, InDesign to PDF files. It's not a zebra, it's a leopard. Nice looking, sweet and elegant cat, but also a beast of prey. And so it can be the workflow, but it's similar to Word. It's able to have prepared templates and to use add-ins in order to create a PDF UA file, and it's also possible. We also implemented this workflow for the Deutsches Institut für Menschenrechte, German Institute for Human Rights, and they have regularly publications in InDesign, and they also need them in PDF UA. Lessons learned there. It's the same like in the Word workflow. The onboard tools are not sufficient, but there are special add-ins. And the problem was the source document in Word. We made a template for the authors, but this solution didn't lead to the fact that we could replace cleaning the source document. We still had to clean it before import the text into InDesign. The workflow is shown here in an overview. You can download it. This cheat sheet, it's for all InDesigner here, so that you have a short overview which steps are necessary to create a PDF UA file. Conclusions. In general, PDF UA opens a complete new world and market for PDF, not only in the field of inclusive publishing. The devil is in the details. For the most important tags, like headings, paragraphs, it's simple. Tables and lists are more complicated. And the tools that combine the two layers, the presentation layer and the structure layer, will be the winner. And for authors, it would be best to work for both. I have a colleague, he always says accessibility forgives, excuses nothing. Accessibility excuses nothing, and that's the point. You always work for the structure layer, if you know that or not. And it's not a solution to work for the presentation layer and then remediate the structure layer. Some conclusions for document authors. Work with structure layer in mind. Machine check is not enough, you need also a human check. And best practice would be an additional user check with assistive technology. And use authoring tools that support PDF UA. For the developer, there is a special implementation guide for developers, how to implement PDF UA in software, use that, but Implementing tag PDF support is not only a technical thing of fulfilling a checklist. Best practice here would be work with user testing, especially with people with disabilities. And for decision makers, use PDF UA as basic requirements. Take into account if you want to establish a lean and efficient workflow, you really have to change your workflows and your tools. And it would be nice to have a one-click solution, but it's not the next step, it's the goal, the one-click solution. And at the moment there are several professional solutions for accessible document authoring, checking and remediation. And for the users, maybe we also have some users here, users of accessible PDFs. Note PDF UA files. Use compliant readers and assistive technology. And very important, give feedback if documents are still not accessible or usable. And please tell exactly which program you have used. In my slides I have some useful resources, the links, so you find the programs or some background information to all that. And if you want to learn more, today it's the theoretical part, but we have also a practical, a hands-on workshop, only in German, tomorrow. And Olaf Drummer will show the InDesign workflow, and I will show the Word workflow, as I mentioned it here, and with which tools we have worked with. Okay, credits. Now, some questions.
Oh, thank you very much. May I have one question?
Yeah, sure.
I'm also Baran from Nitro. I have one question about PDF UA and the creation of PDF UA documents. Actually, it's 4 questions, but I will try to squash it into one. The main focus of the UA is to provide the content of the PDF in another way, not just rendering. So the PDF tagging is the most important part of that all. Mm-hmm. But if you imagine that you can use PDF text for marking the headings and tables and these things, they solve the marking content, but they do not solve any what's inside the content. So you can have a heading tag, but actually inside you will have text, but not as a text, but in curves, or it can be in a type 3 font, because this type of font is not solved anyhow in the PDF UA standard. So we can create a PDF UA documents that are valid, compliant with the standard, but actually they are not readable because they are not using actual text inside. But they are conform with the standard. So we can say, okay, this document is PDF UA ready, but actually it's useless. As I said, I try to squash it a bit. So there is an option to use actual text tag, which is available also in as a normal PDF ISO standard. Why the PDF UA standard does not prescribe somehow usage of this component? Because it can be used across the whole document. You can use it for kind of advanced graphic or any images as an alternative text as well. So this is something that I think is missing in this specification or this ISO standard.
Yeah, good point. Actual text is really a problem at the moment. There is a heavy discussion in the PDF UA Competence Center about precising when to use and how to use actual text. And the PDF UA Competence Center prepares some best practice files, so and best practice descriptions, how to use it. And in the moment, I'm not able to say I have a preference use of actual text. But I'm not able, at the moment, we have no commitment yet. But if we have a commitment, yeah, we can precise it.
because that may be a problem, because we can say that we are conforming our PDF UA creation,
Yeah.
but actually we produce unusable PDF files.
Yeah. So I hope everybody got the point. PDF UA is the beginning, it's a fundamental. Yeah. But a real usable and accessible PDF is on the top. There are some requirements on the top. Yeah? And it's for no user. It makes no sense for a user to have a PDF UA compliant document that is complete useless. So
of course, by good meaning, all creations should be done by good meaning, and the test the output should be the best possible, of course. But actually, this is not the standard. Does not if PDF is UA compliant, it doesn't mean that it's really good, because so that's why the standard is. If you want to build a road, you have to build it by the standards. If you build the road by the standards, then you can be sure that the road is good enough for lorries or for small cars. So, but if you create a PDF based on this standard, you will not be sure that the PDF is good enough to be represented in a good way.
What about PDF UA and PDF-A? Is there a way in one or both directions?
yes. It's also a way. My appreciated colleague Samuel Hofer said that yesterday evening to me. He said it's possible that you can combine all these standards in one file. So you have to make it correctly, but it is possible. It's not an
Not a one-way street.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, so thank you. We have to stop
Yeah.
here for the time. Thank you.